If you don't like snowblower videos, especially rebuilding snowblower videos, this isn't the one for you. This video is about rebuilding my BX2750 snowblower. Here's what I didn't do. Film the first half of the rebuild, which is silly, but I didn't realize until about halfway through that someone might get some use out of this. It might be very helpful. This is what I'm hoping. So I sort of put together a mishmash. About halfway through I started to film, and nothing in detail really. It's certainly not a complete instructional video by any stretch, but I hope it helps a few folks. Again, this isn't a normal video for me. I don't usually do rebuild things, but I thought, I don't think there's much out there on YouTube, so hopefully it helps someone. This snowblower was commercially used before me. It was beat completely up, and it needed a complete overhaul, which I undertook. I will show you a demo shortly of how it performs, and then I'll show you the clipped together version of a snowblower rebuild video. Okay folks, the new snow pusher blade on the back is a beauty. It works very good, forward and reverse, grooming forward and reverse for pushing those big nasty things that you don't want to use the blower for. This is the back blade that I built just a short time ago. This part is the old bucket bottom. It was worn very thin at the one side and kind of bent and ugly, and I cut it out of the bucket and replaced the bottom with a brand new 1/4 inch piece of steel in the bottom now, and a new wear bar on the bucket. And here I re-salvaged that, straightened it out a little bit, cut the top inch off, and put some 1/4 by 6 flat bar around it. And the purpose of this is I don't like to use my snowblower on the big icy chunky windrows. I used to do it, but now that it's brand new and beautiful, I will use the back blade to push the gnarly stuff out of the way and only snow blow the good snow. This is before paint, and yeah, it just hooks up to my little 3-point hinge bracket, I guess. I just make this stuff up as I go along. This is obviously before the renovation. Here where this worm gear attached to the spindle, it used to crack here all the time or break, and same was on the other side. So I filled this in for a ways with weld and beefed it up. Here on this side it used to break. This shaft has been redesigned. I bought a new one because it was all scored, and they now weld this sprocket to the shaft. You can see I had problems with my split pin coming out on a few occasions, and I finally just tacked it and it didn't come out anymore. But this shaft is done, so I got a new one. This shaft is perfect, so I kept the original. This bearing was completely seized and the shaft was turning in the bearing, so it was all scored and whatnot. So brand new bearings and a brand new shaft, and the other side was also scored, but more importantly this shaft was bent. And why? Because the fellow that owned the tractor before me just abused it. I shouldn't say just abused it on purpose or anything like that. He did commercial work with it and hit a couple of really good things and did some serious damage. It vibrated through the years. Now that I've rebuilt the entire thing, brand new shaft, etc., etc., it doesn't vibrate anymore. It's very smooth. These tines, you can't tell from this picture, but they have been bent and mashed to oblivion. I had to spring for new ones. I think they were $70 each or something like that, or maybe a little more, but I'd bent these back a couple of times and I just couldn't get the original shape back anymore without too much effort, so I spoiled myself, bought a couple of brand new ones. There's the gearbox after I first split it. There is the split pin that I will mention later in the video. It slipped out over the years and it scraped on every fourth tooth on this brass gear. So you'll see later I take care of that, and then I reverse this whole assembly so that it pushes on fresh teeth. Everything else was fairly minty in here, with the exception of the front seal was gone. I'm sorry, the back seal, this one here, and the bearings could use a freshening up anyway. There's that worm gear with the culprit sticking up. These brackets here, again, I'll mention those later, but they are, I don't know, 100 thou thick, and certainly not enough. I bent these things constantly, had to weld them. They would bend and then they would finally break, and I've had to weld them back several times and bend them back into position, only so that they would bend again. So we take care of that later as well. She's pretty ugly, like yeah, it's kind of beat. You can't see the dents here, but this is all dented pretty good, and I had to peen all these out. I stitch welded that all closed and punched these dents out. I guess you can kind of see the drum bottom here. I wish I had a better picture, but again, every time a stone would get in between the impeller and the outside housing here, it would smash either a hole or a dent, and it just got worse and worse. That was completely perforated down here and very thin and beat. So I beat that all back into position, and I welded a new piece of flat bar. This is just about ready for paint. The new gussets. This side is all patched as well because that was perforated and beat to heck. 3/16 by ½ inch flat bar, new, all welded in, and this is getting close to paint time. Everything is, it's all been hammered back into submission position. Here's that top flat bar as well. Boy, this shaft was in good shape, so we kept it. All the critical spots were decent. Here's my painter. This is Kubota factory paint, and my wife kindly painted it for me. She used a small roller and a brush, and it looks fantastic. It almost looks like it's been sprayed, and it's a heavy industrial kind of a paint, so it should last pretty good. They all have to go back together, but it would have been a lot more helpful if I would have filmed taking it apart. So everything's all cleaned, and here's the gearbox. I'll try to film putting her back together as best I can. Sorry, this won't be very comprehensive, or none of this is professional. It's pretty good. Okay, well, I just want to point something out. So this is basically back together now. Push the seal on first, then I push the bearing on, and then I put the worm gear on, and then the last bearing. But this split pin in here had slipped out while it was running over the years, I guess, about a half an inch. And it's hard to, okay, of course this goes like this now, right? This goes like that. It's hard to see maybe, but there's a big gouge out of every fourth gear because that pin would come around and scrape a little more brass off every time. So I reversed this whole assembly so that I was pushing on the non-gouged side of every fourth tooth. So anyways, just a little tidbit. What I did here was I tacked it with the welder. Just gave it a tiny tack. First I opened the split pin a bit more because it was still a good pin, and then I gave it a tiny tack. So that shouldn't move anywhere. this out, fill it here until it's running out here, cap it, we're good. Really too bad that I didn't film this earlier, but this was all dented real bad. You can still see it's dented. I welded all this up. This little tab kept bending, so I put a 3/16 by 2-inch cold rolled flat bar here and a gusset. Welded all that in. Patchy patched welded here. This won't bend again. And well, let me tip it up. And so in here, this whole bottom of the drum, or whatever you want to call it, was dented and full of holes. So I welded a 2-inch flat bar in there, 1/8 by 2, and yeah, probably stronger than it was originally. Yeah. So now we're going to put together the back end here. We've got this little deal. Put that all together. It'll end up in here. I'll try to give you a quick overview. So obviously I took it all apart, painted it, banged the dents out. This back wall was dented like crazy. The drum was dented. So I took this all apart. I didn't paint the gearbox, sadly. Maybe I'll do that later. All new bearings, all new seals, new stainless bolts all over the place. This propeller, I don't know. The whole bottom was worn out. It had big gaping holes in it, and it was bashed. Every time a rock gets caught in between the fins and the ground, it would dent it or smash a new hole. And so I welded a flat bar, a curved flat bar all the way through, welded it all the way through there, and put new tips on the impeller. New cold rolled flat bar right across. Maybe you can see that. I don't know. Anyways, that's all brand new. This was cracked and wrecked, and I welded it all back together. Okay. This I put a reinforcement in because it had the guy that owned the tractor before me hit something and bent all this up, and this cracked and broke, so it's got a new 3/16 by 2 cold rolled strip in there. New bearings, everything on the ends here. The shoes are repainted, cleaned up, new stainless steel bolts. You can see the drum, it was completely dented and wrecked here. I punched the dents out as quickly, or not as quickly, but as neatly as I could without taking too much time. This is all garbly from, there was big holes here and stuff. I just left the welds on there. I didn't bother grinding them out. This is an important addition. The tab that comes off of the original Snowblower used to bend all the time, and this would bend as well. So I put this gusset in. I put a 3/16 by 2 inch cold rolled flat bar all the way the length. It's welded. This piece was all bent here, and it's straightened now. I put a new standing flat bar in there to reinforce that whole thing. That will not bend anymore. New stainless bolts to hold the chain tensioner up and down. Just repainted this little puppy. What's going on here? I had constant breakage problems with the old worm here, so I realigned all that stuff, reinforced, welded, so it's not just kind of an abrupt end. Folks, I apologize. I couldn't do more detail on this, but I figured better something than nothing. Take care.